Thanks for staying with us on SABC News. Now, organ trafficking is increasingly going hand in hand with human trafficking. In September 2014, an Italian police investigation revealed that a gang of human traffickers accepted migrants' organs as payment for smuggling them to Europe from Northern Africa. And in 2006, the Mozambican Human Rights League revived claims that trafficking in human organs is done not through exporting the organs themselves, but through the trafficking of children. Mensah was part of creating the Stop Child Trafficking campaign Africa with the Home Affairs Department and works with rescued girls of child trafficking in South Africa. Lebogang Mokgethi is a Medical Anthropology Masters Candidate. They both join me in studio now. Thanks so much for your time. Perhaps, Matthew, I can start with you. What kind of numbers are we seeing with human trafficking in South Africa?
Well, first of all, it's not only it's not a South African issue, it's an African issue. The girls or the children would end up maybe in South Africa because from here go towards Europe. But there's a very strong network that's involving, for example, Home Affairs, which I had the privilege to work with, especially last year under the minister back then, Minister Gigaba. They were doing such a big work, but remember, this is an industry, this is billions of dollars. And it's not, we don't have that kind of resources to fight it, and the numbers have a big variation. But just when you save one child is a massive success because there's so many outlets, there's so many ways they can be smuggled out. I remember that from the campaign that the Home Affairs was starting last year and went into this year, 17 girls within the first 2 months have been rescued from different points where the Home Affairs have stepped in, and it was down to some of those new rule set that the Home Affairs have put in, which we don't have in other countries in Africa. So the numbers that we will find here is maybe because we don't have the same statistics in the other countries across the continent, which makes it even more of a problem.
Lebogang, how is human trafficking tied in with the illegal organ trade?
So basically, illegal organs are procured for a number of reasons, for organ transplants and for the manufacturing of illegal muti. So because now there is a huge demand for organs and a minimum amount of donors, there goes the influx of there goes the influx of human trafficking. And because people are rather hesitant when it comes to donating their organs, and as well as the lengthy donor lists, human trafficking syndicates have become a international syndicate rather, and yeah.
How are we seeing, you spoke about Home Affairs and the stricter measures that they're putting in place at our borders to ensure that there is a decrease in child trafficking. What are the methods that are used to try and traffic both children and adults throughout the continent?
Well, a lot of the methods is most often and most common by financial gains. For example, you'll go to underprivileged areas and promise, especially young children and their parents or their relatives, opportunities in work and where they pretend to empower them, and they'll be promised work in different places, and they might be taken to Johannesburg, and from there, that's when they now disappear and go into that underworld, which is the child trafficking. And of course, these children and even the grown-ups will go through tremendous, terrible ordeals with daily rapes and beatings and worse. And that's why as well, sometimes when you find children who's just been dumped somewhere, killed, and you don't know where they're from, they could be from Botswana, they could be from Lusikisiki, they could be from Cameroon, from all over.
We're also hearing that with this illegal organ trade and what Matthew's speaking about now, the killing of people, that people are actually killing vulnerable people who maybe are not able to be identified in order for their body parts. And then people are also starting to link the murders that we've seen of these young women in South Africa to that. Is there any basis to those stories and that connection?
Yeah, well, somewhat. But the thing is, human trafficking is really hard to monitor and to track, because as Matthew stated, that once the person has been kidnapped, they disappear off the grid forever. But with the bodies that have been found of dead people, some of them, the organs are still there. So then you immediately remove that as It was not organ trafficking, it was not human trafficking, this was an actual killing. You know, but however, you find that vulnerable groups, women, young children, albinos as well, they are targeted in these syndicates. And like I said, once you are targeted and they find you, you are gone and you're off the grid.
How can we improve awareness beyond what is there now? It's obviously a problem, as you've both mentioned, a multi-billion-dollar industry. How do people, perhaps who are watching, say, if I want to stop something like this, what can I do?
Well, I know that the Honourable Minister, Mr. Gigaba, when he was a Minister for Home Affairs, he was working very hard on new measurements, and that campaign that was put in place was very effective, and it involved people from across the continent. And so for us who work in that area, it was a great, with great sadness when we learned that he was been moved to Ministry of Finance, because there's so much traction, there's so many things that's being done, and we are just about to launch this app as well for regarding child trafficking, because a lot of times it's people that asking, okay, how can we help and how can we be part of this? And it's by you being somewhere when you now hear that, oh, there's 10 girls who was picked up and being promised a job in Joburg, then you can quickly go in and inform the right people that's in charge of these things. And also that it's us that have a chance who are in social media, who has the access to news and so on. We're the one who's supposed to be helping the areas where you have underprivileged, where you'll be able to tell people back home in your village, if somebody comes and say that they can offer jobs to 20 kids and so on, don't let them go, don't let them leave the village, you know. And that's the problem, that sometimes when these families let the young ones go in hope of better life and so on, what they will face is the opposite.
Lebogang, it's obviously a problem that's multi-layered. There's the problem of people who need better economic prospects or are falling for things like this. There's also collusion from doctors we've seen in some of South Africa's top private hospitals, harvesting organs and illegally selling them to overseas visitors. Are we doing enough as government, as society, to try and erase this, or are there there's too many gaps to fill, perhaps?
I think we have a great task ahead of us. For example, with regards to basically organ harvesting, it's only legal in Iran. So everywhere else in the world, if it takes place, it's considered illegal. Now, you find a country like South Africa whereby young people are looking for money, looking for ways to earn some form of income, and they're going to these things not knowing. There's always the recruiters. Now, this recruiter will come forward and say, look, if you donate your kidney, we'll give you R500,000. Now, this is where we come in and say, we need to educate people to tell them that should you donate your kidney, you'll still need pre-operational care. That is going to cost you over R500,000 anyway. So I think we have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do in educating people, and also trying to not really regulate, but monitor the health profession, because that is one profession whereby we trust and we do not question whatever goes in and out of it, but we need to question it because these doctors are the ones who are feeding into this market.
When it comes to child and human trafficking, is there other patterns that we're seeing perhaps that are not so obvious as people coming to you and saying there's an opportunity in Johannesburg? Are there other perhaps more insidious ways that people get drawn into this?
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that we have seen of recent with some girls who's been tried to be kidnapped and so on, that is also a lot of times part of trafficking, where you just get snatched, where you just get picked up from, you're just walking somewhere and suddenly someone comes and just pick you up and throw you into a car. The girls that I work with, for example, is all girls who's, most of them has been just been taken and literally kidnapped, abducted, and sometimes as well with the help of aid of different things that makes them pass out, etc. And the next thing they find themselves in some place anywhere where they just been misused as sex slaves. Just like we found out that those 16 girls who got rescued from Kempton Park like last year. And again, I would say that, you know, one of the benefits regarding South Africa is that the government and especially the police, like, you know, Hawks and so on, they do an incredible job. But again, it's when you're dealing with an industry that's multi-billions of dollars, it takes as well the community and society to be part of it and also participate in the awareness and find out what to look out for to be able to protect the people around yourself.
Thank you so much for your time on SABC News. We now go back to Francis Hurd, who's got more news for you. Do stay with us.